We good? Yep. What was the question?
What is your name and title?
My name is Jared Haddon, and I am the sole owner and operator of Northwoods fingerboards. The concept of Northwoods started because I had a wooden tech deck and they stopped selling them. This was in 2009 and I couldn't find another one. And so I went online to see if I could find professional fingerboards. So I think there was Yellowwood, Black River, and Flat Face were kind of the three that I ran across. And I looked at Yellowwood, kind of fell in love with their website. I was like, man, they look really good. It looks like some good products. But there's no way that I'm going to pay $50 for a board. So I decided to make my own. And I pulled up a YouTube video. And there was a guy there that showed you how to make fingerboard molds out of Bondo using a tech deck. Kind of went from there. I didn't intend to start Northwoods. I just wanted to make a good wooden fingerboard. So I was like, you know, if I make a mold and I get the wood, shouldn't be more than, you know, $30, $40, and then I can make more boards if I need them. But something happened in there after making them, and I began to become obsessed with trying to get it right. It was like every time I made one, I'd be like, yeah, this is cool, it's wood, it's this and that, but I need to, and I want to advance it, I want to change it. I was in a band for a really long time, and that was in Louisiana where I was from, and it was pretty much all of my life. And it ended, and I moved to Colorado, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And everybody else was kind of doing things that they had been doing their whole lives. And I thought, what have I been doing my whole life? And I remember I've been fingerboarding since in the 80s. This is the keychain fingerboard. My brothers and I were making index card fingerboards and wheels out of Hot Wheels. And we'd, you know, make little stacks of card until we had trucks that could hold the Hot Wheels and tape everything together. And I was like, I've been doing that. I know fingerboarding. At the time, fingerboarding was very, very small. Of course, big in Germany, but here in the U.S., you know, it was just kind of a joke. No one would take you seriously, and I wanted to take it seriously, and it just kind of went from there. It's like every time I made a board, make another and make another and make another, until I got it right. And I don't know exactly when that was, or if it has happened yet. All right, let's take a look at this. All right, let's see, we got some. So this was the last wooden tech deck I was able to buy, and the reason for wanting another, actually my buddy Brendan, call him Bacon, he broke his, and I went to try to find another and couldn't. So here is the very first Northwoods fingerboard ever made, and then shortly after that was the second. This one has a couple of drill holes in the center from me trying to figure out countersinking. These were made using this, which was a modified tech deck. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. And then you wrap a cereal box cardboard around it, fill it with Bondo. So that was this is the very first Northwoods mold, and incidentally the only mold without the Sweet Ridge concave in it. So that's the tech deck that was used for the first mold. Just heated it up later, made the kicks much higher. It was one of the first things I couldn't wait to do with the tech deck, is make the kicks steeper. Seems like that's what everybody wants to do, is make the kicks steeper. So this guy that makes airplane parts out of Denver created me this, the very first real mold from Northwoods. Before I got to that, when I was still trying to figure out my shape, instead of using the tech deck as the basis for the molds, I started bending metal. And that's when I first invented the Sweet Ridge here, is I took a little wrench and just dented that until I had two bumps instead of just one, or two concaves. So once I got kind of a basic shape figured out and the kicks and everything like that, I decided to have one professionally made. It's 5150 steel, and it is overkill. You don't need to have 5150 steel. Aluminum is just fine. Some people would even argue that 3D printed are just fine. So these are the first boards that I made for the public. It's fire and burn. This is actually how I used to ship out boards. Made a little stand for them. I had to reach out to Jessup grip tape, and they supplied me with grip. And so all of my boards came with real grip. And this is how you would get a Northwoods. Here's just slightly a little bit later version of the same. Can't remember the name of that was called. This is the very first graphic board that I did, wood print. Oh, this is kind of a cool board. This is a graphics fail, for multiple reasons. But that's actually a picture of Northwood. So right after I made those first two, I got like an exotic wood pack, and I just made like a bunch of different kind and found a wood that I really liked to use as the center, as the core of my deck. And since then I've had the power line. Oh man, this is cool. It's got the, it's almost worn off. I used to put my logo right across there. That's the actual Northwoods ski run sign. It's kind of cool. This is one of my first team riders from Russia, Mark Radovsky. Amazing rider. That was one of his boards. He came out with 3 that were really cool. There's a fingerboard TV deck that I made. One of the first Battle of the Beasts for Beast Pants. That's one of Nelia's boards. She is a designer that I work with. She came out with a couple. That one, the Angel deck. That's an Everslick of the Angel deck. That was a color test that I did that came out. This was one of my graphics tests that I did. Look at that real wear, dude. Isn't that cool? They were going to charge me over $100 a graphic. All you had to do was rub it on. It was amazing. Couple splits. An old school board there. Oh, this is a cool graphic. Where is it? This is what I was looking for. Right? That's actually one of the ones we used to skate. That's my brother. We took a picture of him with one of those dentistry cameras and inserted it in. Excellent artist. Let me use his artwork early on to try to promote. Very thankful for that. Here is a Spencer Bluefoot model, which is kind of cool. This is our first split ply pro model. This is just a very, very, very small amount of failures, and I just wanted to show you. Constantly fail. Constantly. Graphic fails. Board pressing fails. Just don't even know what that is fail. You know, just absolute. Forgot to drill. Just forgot to drill. Don't even drill. Just fail. It's one of my favorite parts about this. Look at that graphic fail. Oh damn, that's a cool wood print. I never did. Should have done that. Look at that. So this is one of the new ones that I'm going to do. Just, I call it, me and tree. It's to thank the wood for its sacrifice, and that, to me, that's me in my head there, the old man. after all the fingerboards have been made. And then this one I'm really excited about. This is that older graphic I went in and kind of, remastered it or whatever. And I really like the colors. And I'm excited to see this one come to life. Hopefully it'll come out as good as it looks on screen. That's always the scary part. At the same time that I was trying to figure out what to call this, a guy that I was working with, kind of a new friend, his name was Walt, he called me up and he said, a friend of mine who knows the mountain well wants to go hike up the mountain. Do you want to go? We're going to snowboard down. So we hiked this line up the face of Vail Mountain, and where we ended up, the run that we dropped in on was called Northwoods. And I just remember when I got done with the end of that run, it kind of left an impression on me of doing things outside of my comfort zone, and that almost metaphor for life of that hard journey up where you really just need to focus on the next step. If you look up too high, you're going to get discouraged. If you look back, you're going to get scared. You keep that 1 foot in front of the other doing the hike, and then you have this big reward of cruising down. Granted, it was much quicker than the hike up, but 10 times as rich. And both experiences are part of the journey. And so as it became more of a metaphor, and I was juggling about what to do about the name, it just kind of made sense. So I just called it that, and that was kind of it. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, after I initially started making boards, 2010, kind of through 11, my friend that used to run a skate shop, he was in with the skate park, and they would throw annual celebrations at the skate park. And on one of them, I asked if I could set up a tent in my ramps and introduce and sponsor the event and everything like that. And that was probably the first event. It wasn't even mine. We piggybacked on a skateboarding event, which was a great way to do it if you're looking to try to get something going on in your scene. Because the next step that happened was, and it kind of falls in line with events, was they would have summer skate camp there. Like every Thursday, I'd show up, and then I'd set up all the parks, and they would skate all the parks with their fingerboards, and everybody would be exposed to it and learn about it. And we kind of started growing the scene that way. But it wasn't until I moved to Colorado, those things were kind of already on everybody's radar here. And I remember there were a couple of kids that started hitting me up on Instagram and asking me if we could do a meetup here. And I started looking around for a place to hold a meetup, and one of the kids told me about a great friend, Evan, and Evan set us up with a skate park that he was working at, and so we had our first event there, and way more people showed up than we thought were going to. After that first event, of course, the first question I've got, when's the next one? And so threw another one, and so I set up at the rec center here, and we had an amazing turnout. It was I mean, when we pulled up that morning, it felt like an old punk show or something, just how many, the surprise of how many people were in the parking lot. Everybody started to get to know each other. There were people making products, making ledges, making decks, making parks. And we just all started connecting, and then Joe D over at Board Life Skate Shop stepped up, followed by Reagan at UB Ramps. After that is kind of really when the scene started to take off. We had events at the mall. Other kids were throwing their own events in the area. Then Cube, Mike with this, Denver stepped up. He's got a phenomenal place there. He took everything to the next level. It wasn't just games of skate. There was like a wheel of tricks that you had to do on a snow skate, just like crazy stuff to tie everything in. And I feel like that was probably the line. Once that event happened, it was just like it solidified the locals of the scene. It solidified all the elders, all those guys that are in their late 20s or even early 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s. It kind of solidified our core group, and then also it brought it to the kids. I mean, we have kids show up all the time. They're, under 14, under 15, it's just like tons of them, and they show up stoked and they show up really good, and they've been working on their tricks and they have a good time, and it makes all of the contests and everything super exciting. It's just a beautiful thing what we have, and I could not be more grateful to be a part of it. The only thing that I would say it reminds me of is that camaraderie that I felt when I was in Berlin, when I was at the Black River store, and when I got there, and I met Timo, who runs it. I mean, just out of the corner of my eye, Ramon just comes and like kidnaps me. I've never met this guy before, and he was like, "Come with me." And he just like tours me through, just rips me through both levels of the Black River store and skates unbelievably fast and so good. I mean, you've seen his Instagram. He's like that in real life all the time. Never seen anything like that in my life. Never seen people that good at what they do in that level of fingerboarding, and then to be that nice and kind of making me feel welcome. This is a complete stranger. And I feel like that is what I recognize in the Colorado scene, is when we have a new person that walks in the door at one of our events, it's so cool to welcome them in and have them enter the contest, and or win one of the raffles, or just get to know everybody. It's one of my favorite things, and it's just such a solid scene of good-hearted, good-intentioned people that they just want to share the same love. If you do something for the right reasons, it will be difficult, but you can succeed. One of the things that I've had to learn in making fingerboards with Northwoods and trying to have a life outside of that is just the balance between your family, making a living, and making boards, because I've never made a living off of Northwoods. I've always made just enough money to kind of circulate it back in or sponsor events or whatever it is, but never really made a personal dime off of it, and don't really intend to, because that's not what I created it for. But one of the things it did teach me was prototyping, coming up with a concept, then trying to figure out how to mass produce it in a world that, with all the different resources in all the different countries, and where do you go, and who does it, and who does the best job. And I think that those journeys taught me a lot about small business, that most people, if you don't have an idea that you're trying to do, you never have to learn those lessons. So how my life has changed from Northwoods. First of all, I've met hundreds of wonderful people that I would never have known all over the planet. It's the most amazing thing that it has that power. In 2014, for example, Martin from Fingerboard TV got me invited out to Germany for a Battle of the Herricks, and to fly over buildings that are 4 times as old as this country, and see an entirely different culture, and meet people from all over the world that were there for the same love. It changed me in how I look at failure and how I look at my life, how I approach problems, any problem. It's taught me how to fail. It's how to fail in a positive way, and to look forward to failing, because then I have something I can improve on. If I can put my finger on what I did wrong, that means I can do something about it. The first 5 years of Northwoods was primarily just the challenge that you face, making a name for yourself, and then of course the challenge of making good boards. And I probably sold less than a board a month for most of that time, but sponsored so many events to try to get my name out. And then I would say compare that to the last 5 years, where I have the name and I use it. I just wanted to help, like I said from the beginning, fingerboarding needed to be taken seriously, and I want it to grow. I want, you know, more people to discover it and have fun and get out of it even a fraction of what I have. I owe so much to fingerboarding. All of the alone times, and, you know, when you're bored or whatever, it never fails you. It never lets you down. It's always there for you, whether it was making them or skating them. And so the last 5 years have been using that kind of credit earned in the first 5 to do what I can to help grow the scene. Every time I make a stock of boards, I'll sell whatever people want, and then about a week or so later, I send the rest off to sponsor events, whatever's left. And, you know, hopefully my company name with other respected company names will help promote their event and make it more popular, and use it as the main connection for everything that has to do with fingerboarding and the people that are involved. When I first started making fingerboards, I had all of these opinions about where we were at in video. I don't, you know, if people would just shoot really close up, then others could appreciate a tray flip or whatever. And I mean, just leaps and bounds different now. I mean, all the way up to Nico in the barracks. What it took for that to grow into that. So 6 years ago when I was in Berlin, and Martin from Black River, when I got there, he too took me aside. We went for a walk, and then we went to his apartment, and he was telling me about how a year or two before, how they had shot a Sony commercial, and X amount of thousands of dollars was paid to them for shooting this Sony commercial. And I was like, yes, that's what I want to happen. That's what I want to, I don't care about selling out. I'm too old to care about selling out. I'm like, now I just want to, all I want to do is I want to see people succeed. I want to see fingerboarding succeed. And it has. It seems like it has reached the masses, and the quality of video has increased 100-fold, and the quality of skating is just leaps and bounds what it used to be. And it's amazing. It's what I wanted to see in fingerboarding, even though I wasn't good enough to be that yet. As I wanted to see all of us grow into that. And I mean, it's all been a repeat of skateboarding anyway. It's easy to see our future. You just have to look at skateboarding's history. Every little thing that I did, I watched a video of Pal Peralta, but you can look to them to see. So if you do that, well, then you have national exposure, international exposure, you have international appreciation for it, and you have people that excel at it are able to dedicate their life to it because they're compensated, whether it's by sponsors who can actually make money, just like Vision was able to start making money off of their skateboards, or Pal was able to make money off of theirs and start sponsoring. If it blows up to that level, then that would be wonderful, because I feel like there's a lot of good talent out there. On the same note though, that was never really important to me when it came to my own. When I started fingerboarding, there wasn't a sponsor me. Do it because you love to do it. Do it because you want to land a switch kickflip. So while I want to see it explode and do better in the world, there's a part of me that also just doesn't care, because a lot of people don't get it and they don't get the focus. And most of those people send instant messages asking for sponsorships, and just like not even understanding what it takes to do that. Not understanding that it takes building a relationship with sponsors. So the next 10 years for Northwoods. Be honest with you, Tim. For the longest time, I wasn't sure if I was going to do another 10. Sometimes you leave behind the energy. Sometimes you get sick of sponsor me requests. You know, sometimes you get sick of sand and wood, and sometimes you get sick of screwing up. But then I'll come back in here and I'll put 2 boards in the press and just remember why I love doing it. So whatever that means, if that means absence makes it grow fonder, then, you know, maybe take a little bit of break. If it means throwing Colorado events or helping others throw those events or whatever, then let it be that. But I think the main thing that I want to do is retain that true passion and that true love that I have for actually making decks. And I'm very thankful that anyone wants to buy them, because I feel like I would still want to make them. And then you would just have thousands of decks piling up behind me because I like making them. I'm 45, and right now it's kind of challenging to imagine what it would be like to be 55 and deal with the stigma, even if it's in my own thoughts of, dude, you're 55 and making miniature skateboards. You know, like, I don't know what 55 holds for me, but I think for the next 10 years, what I really want to do is make sure I'm able to keep loving it, I think is the real answer.